This is a recap on Pacific Rim Uprising. The film picks up after the supposed clash of the break a decade after the final Pacific Age film, in which humanity demolished the kaiju beasts to protect them in our reality. Jake Pentecost is Stacker's son and still looks nothing like his father. Jake is a former Jaeger apprentice who now gets managed Jaeger parts in exchange for parts. Jake goes to a decommissioned Jaeger scrapyard with 3 hooligans that he's hustled looking for an entirely significant Jaeger center. The hooligan chief powers Jake at gunpoint to track down and to take care of what he took from him. Jake observes that the center is missing, however his tracker is getting it. He fools the hooligans into a snare and pursues somebody who as of now has the center. Jake tracks down that it's a vagrant young lady, Amara Namani. As the specialists show up, Amara sheets a Jaeger she constructed and calls Scrapper, and Jake follows. A Container Pacific Guard Corps Jaeger, November Ajax, pursues the two, however Amara pilots Scrapper to get them out. Jake and Amara are on a phone call when Jake is brought in to speak to Mako Mori, both secretary of the PPDC and Jake's pampered sister, who makes Jake decide between going to jail or grooming another Jaeger trainer. Jake decides, and Mako says he's been on the set now. The two are shipped off the Hong Kong Shatterdome to start preparing. Jake meets his previous co-pilot and Wanderer Justice fighter, Nate Lambert, with whom he currently has a stressed relationship with. Jake likewise meets Jules Reyes, a warrior that he becomes drawn to. Nate takes Jake and Amara to meet different recruits, including Suresh, Ilya, and Victoria, or Vic. She is disturbed that Amara has gotten into the program based off the PPDC being dazzled by her structure her own Jaeger when it took Vic 3 attempts to get in. Amara doesn't find real success from the outset and is deterred. Jake and Nate talk in the kitchen and consent to avoid every other's way. The Shatterdome is visited by reps from Shao organizations, including its president Liwan Shao and Newt Geisler, who is currently her head of innovative work. They will likely rapidly send an enormous number of Jaeger drones all over the planet, which is seen as a danger to the PPDC. Herman likewise lets Newt know that he actually has bad dreams of when they floated with the Kaiju Cerebrum. Newt then, at that point, leaves to go rejoin with Liwan, who advises him to avoid Herman so she doesn't need to scrutinize his unwaveringness. Mako lets Jake know how little faith she has in the robot system as they operate remotely and can be destroyed or hacked. Tramp Justice Fighter gets sent in Sydney with Jake and Nate co-guiding. Unexpectedly, a Maverick Jaeger, Obsidian Rage, ascends from the sea and starts to assault. Jake and Nate work Tramp to retaliate. In the tumult, a chopper with Mako on board is struck by Obsidian, and despite the fact that Rover attempts to protect her, they simply miss her, and the chopper collides with the ground. Jake gets back to the PPDC, grieving Mako's misfortune. He meets with Amara, who gives her sympathies. To take care of her, Jake floats with Amara, and he sees a memory of hers. She was on a promenade with her folks and sibling when a kaiju started to assault. At the point when Amara attempted to contact her family, they were squashed by the kaiju. Jake needs to wake her up and remind her not to clutch the memory. Now benefits from Newt leaving of Central Command that the robot plan has been approved immediately after the Sydney attack. Newt believes his plan is poorly planned. She comes back and starts talking to someone she calls Alice. Finally, Alice is a kaiju concept in a unit that Newt floats with regularly. At the PPDC, Amara and Vic get into a battle, with Amara really figuring out how to overwhelm Vic in spite of being a portion of her size. The battle is separated promptly by Nate. Jules enters to let him know that Herman interpreted Mako's last message. Amara and a couple of trainees slip into the destruction of Obsidian Rage. Upon examination, Amara tracks down a cylinder with a Shao logo on it. As she cuts into it, it releases corrosive that seriously consumes another trainee's arm. She is thusly removed from the program, to her mistake. After she communicates that she doesn't have a place, Jake tells her not to let others' thought process of her characterize her. As Amara leaves, different trainees express their lament, and Vic earnestly advises her to fabricate her next Jaeger grader. The robots are set to be conveyed to PPDC Shatterdomes all over the planet. They start to go after the Shatterdomes, killing numerous and destroying practically the wide range of various Jaegers. Newt has been arranging this for the last 10 years after his psyche has been tainted by antecedents subsequent to floating with the Kaiju Cerebrums for such a long time. The robots start to open the brakes, and Kaiju begin to slither out from the sea profundities. Liwan figures out how to close the robots down and keep the brakes shut, yet 3 Kaiju have effectively gotten out and are advancing into Japan. In the lab, Herman and the others established that the Kaiju are gone to Mt. Fuji since it contains uncommon Earth components, and when blended in with Kaiju blood, the PPDC gets set on acquiring fortifications to fix Jaegers and prepare the trainees for the fight to come. Jake and Nate meet with the trainees and set them up with a discourse from Jake, similar as his dad did previously. They lift off utilizing Herman's rocket engines with the Kaiju blood and interesting Earth components as fuel. The 3 Kaiju are now going after the city. Sadly, Newt utilizes his tech to consolidate the monsters into one super kaiju. This one ends up being amazingly strong, causing setbacks inside Watchman and Saber. It figures out how to overwhelm every one of the Jaegers before it begins making a beeline for Mt. Fuji. The Uber Kaiju pushes increasingly close toward the well of lava. The trainees choose the best way to stop it is to send Vagabond taking off directly into it. When they arrive at a sufficiently high elevation, Tramp is sent plunging toward the monster. Jake and Amara battle to free themselves, yet Scrapper gets them out in time. Tramp impacts capably with the Super Kaiju, sending it moving down the mountain until it bites the dust. Newt attempts to start Plan B, just to get taken out by Nate. Jake and Amara land securely and commend their triumph. The last scene shows Newt in authority, promising retribution and swearing that the Kaiju will return and that the antecedents will annihilate the world. Jake enters and commitments that humankind will be prepared to retaliate, greater and more intense than at any other time.